All right, good afternoon. I'm sorry, morning here. Yeah, afternoon, there we go. Um, this last one is going to help us get through the year. And so I just want to go through Slack. Now, I am tired of hearing about new apps and all that, but if there was one new app for you to consider getting, it would be Slack. Now, if you don't like apps, actually, you don't even need to use it as an app. You can use it through the web. So more on that here in a second. I just wanted to point out here that we're in this together. My experience when I first got into coaching was that people looked out for me. People made sure that I knew what to do so that my team could get down to state. And I still want to make sure we can do that as chess coaches. And so we're supporting each other this year a little differently. We want to make sure that we take care of each other, but also take care of ourselves. And when you get a new app, sometimes there's little things along the way that if you only knew ahead of time, it would have made it more fun to use. All right, so what is it? It's a communication system without the clutter. It's an app, it's a website, it's a program. So it works on phones, computers, tablets, anything with internet connection basically. And it's customizable, so you can make it fit your experience of what you need. And I'm gonna go through each of these with you in this presentation, okay? Just to give you an idea of where each of us might be coming from, I've created 3 fictitious coaches. All right, so Coach A, they're in a conference that uses text messages, group text messages all the time. They have an Android phone. Well, everyone else has an iPhone, so they get the whole text again every time somebody likes a text. So their phone's buzzing all the time, things like that. They like to sleep at night, but these text messages keep on coming in, and like, well, do you turn off all texts? You know, what do you do here? And this person prefers messages to be short and sweet. If it requires more than a sentence, well, let's get an email out. Coach B is stepping up to help their chess conference chair. This 2020-21 season is going to be tough for them, and they so you know we're all trying to help each other out here, and so they have lots of short and simple questions about lead chess where it's like, why write a whole email about one little thing, right? And so that's where they're coming from. And they get really frustrated that maybe somebody will answer one of their questions in an email, another question is given them via text message, and then maybe somebody hands them a piece of paper or something to answer another question. So there's answers all over the place. People are helpful, just answers are everywhere. And there's also Chess Coach C. Chess Coach C is retired, just wants to keep in touch, maybe steward on occasion, maybe answer a few questions if they can. They knows that the whole cloud, the Google Drive is a good thing, but they haven't really needed to figure it all out. And so that, they don't want to go too deep into a whole new system. And they're not really interested in the day-to-day conversations about chess. They just, they've already done that. And so, they want to stay connected, but they don't want to be inundated with emails and all these other things. So I've created this presentation to deal with these 3 fictitious coaches. And yeah, so anyway, some things you should know. I'm going to show you Slack here in a second. There's going to be something called channels. This is like a conversation that's ongoing. Okay, DM stands for direct message. And then a mention is the @ symbol, and you'll see the person's name. And then I don't like emoji. I'm going to be front with you. I don't like emojis. This is the one place where I do like emojis because these 2 in particular, the check mark and the eyes, actually do like these. More on that. So what is Slack? All right, here's a screenshot of the desktop version of Slack. Let's take a look around at this. There's a whole bunch of things going on here. Okay, so I'm going to point out those words I just mentioned to you. First of all, there's the channel. This is the general channel. Everyone, all 66 people in our Slack workspace are part of it. There's different organizations. I'm part of 3 organizations that use Slack. So in the top left corner, you'll see this little chess map. Okay, that means I'm in the ICCA's workspace, and I'm currently looking at the general channel for general discussions about general things. Okay, you'll notice that somebody mentioned me and I mentioned them. Okay, yes, this looks like a few other systems out there. So yes, Slack isn't the only way. Teams, this looks a lot better than Teams, but Teams also does this for Microsoft. And so there's also emojis. I did a poll earlier, and people gave thumbs up as their vote for it. So you can see those things that I mentioned. So you can just write something Okay, like Glenn did. Glenn just put a question out there and I just happened to see it. So I used @ and I typed in @ and then his name popped up, and this way he got notification that I replied, and then he typed in my name to let me know that, you know, hey, I got your message. And so that's a mention. If you see the @ somebody's name, that's a mention. Okay, again, this is the desktop version. If you're on your phone, you probably see one panel at a time. You probably would see one panel at a time. There's a third panel that opens up if you want to look at replies, if you want to look at a conversation that kept on going, kind of a side conversation within the main conversation. So that's what the first look of Slack looks like. Okay, now why is this useful? Well, there's different channels. So we could have a channel, not about general things, but specific things. The more specific a channel is, the better it tends to be. So that way you're only involved in a conversation that you really care about, like about hosting. That's what I'm going to be looking at. Okay. All about chess. I have chess questions. That's where I go. Maybe I'm a chess host, tournament host, so I'll put announcements down here. Okay, so you choose which channels you're a part of and which channels you're not a part of. The @ symbol is how I do a mention. And then my favorite two emojis, again, I don't use emojis anywhere else, is the eyes that says, people, I've seen this. How many times have you got an email and your boss is like, hey, just let me know that you got this email. So then you reply with a whole email saying, I got the email that you sent. All you do is put down this emoji, and you'll keep track of how many people and who put down that emoji. Or, hey, I need people to submit this form to the conference chairperson. You put a little check mark down, did it. There's no email saying that, hey, I did the thing that you wanted me to. It's all right here, and you can hover over the emoji and see who put it down, okay? And so it's a real streamlined process right there. Like, just so many emails have been eliminated this year for the ICCA just based on using Slack just to plan this clinic. Okay, what are some other things you should know? There's workspaces. So some of you use Slack for other groups. You can have one email account associated with different groups, and that's fine. You can search all of this. Remember that coach that would find answers all over the place? Well, I can search all the channels I'm a part of for a keyword, and it'll show me all those things. I can look for people in the channel. Okay, some channels I put everyone in if you join. You can leave the channel if you want. You can join another channel. Some channels will have a bunch of people. Some channels will have very few people. And then you can send messages here. You can post files. You can post links to Google Drive. You can do lots of things here. And you can use, if you're going to post something big, okay, you can use bullet points and numbers. You can use, make it bold. Okay, I have it set where it doesn't send until I press Command Enter. That way, if I press Enter, it actually will, you know, create another paragraph. So you can customize this to be your style. When I use my phone, that's the quick messages. When I use this desktop, I'm, you know, I can handle the bigger issues that are coming up. Okay, now let's just say, now I want to tell you, Glenn asked a very simple question here. I could have gone about it two ways. I could have replied and started a thread. And, you know, for a quick question that's just kind of a one-on-one question, that would have been a good thing to do. But I wanted everyone to be able to see this. So I could have replied to him. If he asked a very specific question, I could have just replied to him and he would have gotten information notification that I replied, but that would have been it. But I did put it out here in the public part of general, so that way everyone would see this great question that he asked. Okay, but there are replies, and that's how you create a reply. It's the little bubble right there. Okay, and again, this could have been like, you know, 3 emails in my inbox, but now it's just 3 little lines in this app. Okay, and one of these I was on my phone, and the other one I was sitting down at a computer, just happened to be on. Okay, you also click on the 3 dots, more actions, for more possibilities of what you can do. And if you ever seen an email, you're like, oh, this is a great thing, but I got to deal with this another day. So you can snooze something or remind me about it later. You can follow this message. Maybe they're not asking you, but you want to see what the outcome is. Okay. And you can also mark as on read in case you see it like, you know, I'm too tired to deal with this. I want to come back to this later when I'm fresh. Okay, so that there you go. You got all these great options right there. I see a question about how do I join the ICCA Workspace. There was a link sent in the morning email that I sent out to people, and when we get to them to pause, I'll be able to let more people get invited in when we get to our workaround time. Okay, so what is it? To recap, it's an app, it's a website, it's a program. You don't have your phone with you, but by a computer at some other place, you can hop on real quick. If you prefer using a mobile device, yeah, it works with iOS or Android, the same for both pretty much. If you don't like walls of text showing up on your phone, you can use, sit down and use a computer, but you don't need to download any software. You can also use it via the web browser. So it looks very similar for anyone and everyone. So again, like I'm in a group chat where people love just talking a bunch of things about everything for my department, and these messages go on and on and on and on, and I have trouble navigating that. So if only there's a way I could sit down at a computer and navigate that huge message system going on. Also, you can control who's in a channel or not. More on that later. Okay, and you can also decide how many notifications you get, because some of you joined Slack are probably already frustrated at me that I created 2 polls and you're getting surveys, and you're also getting all these updates about them. So you can customize how many notifications you get and where you get them. Maybe you don't want to get notifications on your phone. You just want to sit down at your desk and work on Slack. Maybe you don't want to sit down at your desk. You want to get notifications on the fly as if it was a text message. Well, you can do that. Okay. So make it work for you. Okay, there's 2 extremes I really want you to avoid with any technology, particularly Slack. One is not using it at all. It's not really useful to you. So here's the loop, and this is you being out of the loop. We don't want that. That's one extreme. Here's the other one. Like I said, I'm getting, if somebody likes a message, do I get a whole nother notification over that? Am I getting all these messages that don't really pertain to my conference, my team right now of where I'm at? So we want to keep you balanced, as all things should be, where you're in the loop, but you can tune out what you need to tune out. If you're like, you know what, I'm getting too many messages, notifications from Slack, you have the authority to reduce how much a commotion you're seeing in Slack. Okay. So I already showed you the 3-dot button where you can actually mute a channel. Okay, you can click on a channel and you can change notifications for this particular channel. So I added you all to the general channel because that's Slack's default, but you could choose to leave the channel, or if you want to come by and read it every so often at your own pace, you could mute it. You could also change the notifications. So that way, those rules on it. So I'm going to show you changing the notifications. So I'm going to click on change notifications, and I could say, every new message, please let me know about every new message. But that might be a lot. So you could click just at mentions. So you only get notifications if somebody mentions you. So you can be a part of a conversation and somebody can say, hey, let's bring in so-and-so on this. Okay, or you can get no notifications whatsoever. When you sit down to open up Slack, that's when you're going to read it, when you want to, not when the computer's telling you. You also might have Slack on your phone. Okay, and there's some global preferences I'll get to in a moment. You could use different settings for your phone and what suits you best. Now I do set to every new message because I'm trying to learn Slack and try and get everyone working on it. But just know that you can set this so you can have it on 2 devices, the quick conversations and also the long drawn out discussions and planning. Okay. Now here's the global preferences, and this is my favorite part. So studies have shown that I like to sleep at night and not be woken up. Okay, so you can allow notifications on any device between a certain time, and you can set that. Okay, so if you want to be woken up at 12, midnight because you're a tournament director and you have a tournament the next day, and people might need to reach you, then you can go in there and you can say, yeah, wake me up with my phone buzzing at midnight before a tournament. I host sectionals, so the night that I host sectionals, I'll probably have this to allow me to get notifications on my phone throughout the evening, pretty late. Or it's a snowstorm rolling in, so I'm gonna allow notifications at 4 a.m. in the morning so people start communicating with me about buses. But in general, yeah, I just go with the default time that they recommend, and I can change what days this applies for. Okay, there's some other things here that you can look at. They're useful, but I don't want to inundate you with too many things. Okay, there's also direct messages. Instant message, so you can basically text within Slack to one person, and or 3 people, and you could basically grow that into a channel if you'd like. You should know that we have the option of making a channel private, and so there's some channels that you won't have access to, and maybe you'd want to make a channel private And you can contact me or Eric about that, about making your channel private, since some conversations should be private. Since right now I can go into most of these channels and look at all of them as a moderator, but maybe that we don't want that to be the case for everyone or for even myself. All right. In just a moment, I'm going to ask you to fire up your device if you have Slack, if you're bold enough to try it out today. But I just want to show, like, what will be the first thing that I would do if I joined Slack. Okay. I'd recommend that you, sorry, let me go back one. I'd recommend that the bottom of your channels, you're not going to have as many as I do, that you click on the Add Channels button and then click on Browse Channels. Okay, I'm going to pause here in case you are following along with your phone. You don't have to. You don't have to use this at all. I'm just providing updating you on how we're going to communicate as a organization. I can browse all channels because you're not in all channels at first. Now let's just say I wanted to join the Nickel Conference, Northern Illinois Chess League. Okay, I could click on that. Okay, now again, if you're not a high school coach, yes, I'm totally catering to the high school coach right now. But we also have an IESA channel for our K through 8 chess coaches. If you don't have a conference, we also have an independent conference channel here. For that way, all the non-conference people can be in their own, not a conference, at least communication-wise. Okay, and you can join that. And then there's that. Now I have added you all to the urgent help one. So that way, if you have a quick question, you could email somebody, but you prefer to know sooner rather than later. We do have a channel for urgent help, whether it's chess, lead chess, Slack, you're at a tournament and something's going on. I can't guarantee that somebody's going to answer, but if we have 70 people in the urgent help and you plead for help, maybe somebody's going to catch that. So there are some channels I've already put you in as you enter. Okay. So let's review our case study here of 3 very different coaches. Coach A now can put their phone down and just use their phone as the preferred. The fact that they use Android or iPhone is irrelevant. Okay. And they get to see that somebody likes something they posted, which is really cool, but doesn't wake them up with another buzzing sound, doesn't interrupt their class. They get to just keep it short and sweet when they're on the phone, and they can sit down and they can send out what would have been an email, but they can now send that through Slack. Coach B, they're trying to step up, help out their conference, since now everyone, all hands on deck. They can now ask a question in the urgent help or in the all about lead chess channel and get a question probably in a day or two, a question answered in a day or two. And so now they're getting simple questions without losing it in email. Is it text? Did somebody send me a letter? It's just all in Slack, and they can quickly search that to find it. And Chess Coach C, they can mute all of the channels. They can join just 2 channels. They can mute everything. And then when they feel like it, they can stop in and see how people are doing. And they can stay in contact with their colleagues, with the new coaches that might be looking for help. Okay. And it's really, really valuable to have that for every experience level with chess. Okay, I'm going to invite you to try it now. Okay. And so there's a channel I'm going to have you join, and we'll practice this for a few minutes today. Okay, so if you haven't done so already, I'm going to have you add the coaching clinic channel to this. So you're going to, if you're following along with me, you're welcome to do this. You don't have to. You can just watch me do this. I'm going to, ask you to add the coaching clinic channel. Okay, so you should be able to find the coaching clinic channel. It has 8 members as of this morning, and so I've created this clinic channel so we could chit chat about it, but also we could try this in a space, because if I start having you put messages everywhere else, a lot of people who aren't here today are going to get a lot of messages. And so I thought we'd create this coaching clinic channel to talk about the clinic, have a way to communicate about it afterwards, but also allow us to practice Slack right now. Okay, so hopefully you've joined that. I'll pause here for 30 seconds to allow people to join it. And I'll get my Slack ready so I can show my screen. Okay, so I'm watching the Slack channel on my other monitor, and I'm also presenting another screen of a, something made ahead of time. So I'm watching what we're doing. I see that we have 19 people instead of 8. Awesome. Okay, for those of you who do want to try it out, I'm going to have you try out. Sorry, let me try and advance my slide here. Try something. Try saying hello. A lot of you did. Try a mention. So try @ and then type in Chris or anyone that you know that's in the channel. Okay, and you can just tell me something, say hello, and so if you type in @Chris, it should open a menu which will allow you to press it. Now, what does it look like on a phone? I can't remember, but on a desktop, it's really easy to use. Okay, and so you can, and then I'll get a notification on my phone about that. And so you can try calling somebody's attention. There are a few other things about mentions that I won't get into, like you can @everyone, and I think we've disabled that for most channels, so that way we're not spamming everyone with a whole lot of things. Okay, so that's something you can do. Okay, and they also try an emoji. So I could say, I could say, hi, did you see this? And I'll send that. And I've just posted a message there, and hopefully you could put an emoji in there. So I'm going to now share my screen of Slack. So please give me a moment here. I don't think anything personal information is in Slack right now. Erica, can you see my Slack screen right now?
Yes.
Awesome.
I
Thank you.
couldn't unmute
Sorry.
my screen, but I could see yours.
All right. So check this out. Let me get my red laser pointer back here, the Zoom laser pointer of finesse. There we go. So did I see this? Check this out. I got 2 check marks. Okay. And I can see who put what down. And so again, there's, instead of a bunch of emails, okay, and I can see who reacted with this. I can see who reacted with a check mark. I can see who put down some eyes. Okay, that I've seen this. Okay, and I can look at all that. And so again, you can make this whatever you want. You can have only one channel, the urgent help channel. You don't have to use Slack, but this is how the clinic, this is how the association is going to try and stick together during a pandemic without inundating people with a bunch of messages. Okay, so I'm going to point out some other channels while I'm on my screen here. So we have one just for stewards. Okay, or where you can ask a steward a question and they can talk amongst themselves publicly. We have, if you have a place for chess questions, all about chess. I've put you all in there when you join. I'm part of the Upstate 8 conference, so I'm part of that. Okay, is my conference going to use this? I don't know. I haven't asked them yet, but I'm going to propose it, and we have the option of making this the official communication system of my conference. Maybe your conference will look at this and say, that's nice, but no thank you. And that's totally fine. You don't have to use your conference channel that we've created for you. We simply created there to give you the option of it, or a alternative way to communicate with each other. Okay. Water cooler. I want to talk to people about other things, like I love photography. Some people love fancy pens, things like that. You can certainly do that. Please remember that you have a person in your conference who's a representative, so we're going to give them a place to work. The ICCA has great leaders who take care of things, and we're going to need some moderators to run this. Okay, so there are plenty of channels out there for you to consider. Again, I'm kind of done with all the newness, all the new things we're doing, but I do want to point out this is a great tool to stay in communication with everyone. Okay. All right, let's wrap things up. Closing thoughts. It's up to us, but we are used to that. For those of you who don't know, for those of you who are new, team chess is not a super common thing. It's an Illinois thing that we've taken the lead with having team chess, and so now we're going to lead people further in going forward. And we have the biggest team chess tournament anywhere, and you should know that when I first became a chess coach, others looked out for me. Okay, and I'm really worried for the new coaches who can't see people in person, because there were coaches that came over and said, hey, I'll meet a pride, but did you get that paperwork done so you can go to state? Hey, I don't mean to pry, but did you know what? There's an awesome tournament in 2 weeks that maybe you can still get in on. Okay, and so I want to make sure that we have a way to do that as best we can with Slack. And right now, I feel like I was in the dark all summer. Like, what's going on? What's the ICCA going to do? And I feel kind of in the dark. But at the same time, I look back, they've never micromanaged us. They've given us guidance and rules, of course, but they've let us coaches make the season what it's going to be. They've allowed us to run the tournaments that we're going to run, and that's an awesome thing. It just so happens during a pandemic, that means we get to step up and figure things out, and it just might be new to us. So Slack can help this year, but it can also help us beyond as we grow as a community. Okay, so there you go. That's closing thoughts on Slack, but I will now stop for questions and answers. I have not looked at the chat box in a while. So let's have a Q&A for anything about everything. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my mic. You can unmute your mic and ask questions.
Hi, Chris, it's Patty Zinsky. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you a little bit.
What the thoughts were around the time controls, both for tournament play and conference play, particularly since we're all using lead chess, and lead chess is heavy on increments. I know several of our players have commented, they've been disappointed they've lost games on lead chess because extensive increments means basically opposing players really never have time pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we do our games internally on our team on lead chess, we have a short increment of like 2 seconds. And I just kind of wonder what we're thinking from conference play and tournament play. What are those time controls going to look like?
Great question. So I'll speak from my in the dark perspective. The IHSA has not told me anything about exempting people from rules. So you have to have matches, a certain number of matches. I think it's 6, and
Okay.
they're open as long as they're chess matches where you go head to head, and they're over a certain number of days. You get your 6 matches. You're good to go. Now you have to go to a qualifying tournament, and that has to be at least game 30. It doesn't have to be delay. Maybe it could be increment. That I don't know, but I do know that the only stipulation I've seen is 30 minutes, 3-round Swiss paired, and there might be a little more in there, but that's the gist of it. So if you can find a way to run a digital Swiss paired 3-round game 30 with delay, without delay.
Lead chess doesn't use delay, so if we're using lead, we're kind of stuck with increment or no increment.
Yeah, so we're kind of stuck with that. So that's me shoot from the hip here is if you get your half dozen matches and you have a tournament at some point with 3-round Swiss paired with at least 30 minutes, increment, non-increment, I think they'll take that. That's my guess. I should say authority figure. My guess is if you do your best to follow those precedents followed for previous years, we can do that.
I guess my question is for people running conferences or tournaments, what's their thought around what's a typical high school game going to look like this year in terms of time control and increment?
That's a great question. I'm going to answer a quick question about Slack, and then we can talk about the conference, the tournaments there. I created in the Slack for ICCA, I created a conference channel for every conference, but it's up to the conference and the coaches in that conference to actually use the channel or not. So you can join it and think about whether you're going to use it. You don't have to. I'm not offended if you don't use it. You can, if everyone's in on it, we can make it private. That way it's just for your coaches only. But your conference can decide how to communicate with each other. And maybe it'll just be an unofficial place where some or all of you have informal conversations. So yeah, and I will we'll send a new invite link out for Slack pretty soon here. The current Slack invite link expires in a week, but we'll get a new one out here soon enough with the next mass ICCA email. So yeah, all conferences already have their channel set up. You just need to find it in the browse channels. But I'm not mandating, we're not mandating that you use it. It's just another communication tool that you can consider using this year. Now on to what a game will look like for conference matches and tournaments. That I can only say, yeah, I'm in the learning phase myself. So I'll open it up for other people to answer that question of what they think tournaments will look like.
So I'll jump in specifically with the time control question. Everyone, so there was a group of maybe a dozen people sharing emails with Ray McDonald at the IHSA. It's like advisory board, and then she looped in like me, some of the TDs like Jeff Smith down in Bloomington. I know Jeff's been running some USCF tournaments. Kevin Bachler is currently on the Zoom. He's been doing a lot of USCF activity up north in the Chicago area. Anyway, so we had discussed very briefly just using a 5-second increment instead of a 5-second delay, just because of the way Lichess is set up, and it really just came down to that. I think the 2-second increment is an idea definitely worth that group discussing. So we'll pass that along to them, because the rules for IHSA have not been finalized yet. I think tentatively listening to the MSL starting up their conference and kind of just getting feedback as we go. They're doing okay with just the 5-second increment. I think our conference, we're looking at starting up in a few weeks, and we're looking at using just a 5-second increment. Because really it shouldn't affect the time control, except in those rare cases where you have some kids maybe rattling off a whole lot of moves. I could foresee like my board 8 doesn't know how to.
And you're making a quick moves, and all of a sudden, time is just suddenly adding up. And, the idea of pressure kind of goes out the window at that point, and you just keep adding time.
Right. Well, and this is one of those things like the metric system. The U.S. is kind of unique in that we are, I think, the only major federation that still uses simple delay a lot of the times. Increment has become the standard elsewhere, and this might be the thing that ticks us over the edge. Who knows?
Yeah.
So it is a different thing, though, and kids will have to get used to it.
Okay.
All right, other questions about any topic?
So this probably just reflects that I'm very new at the online playing platforms. It's still not entirely clear to me how running games on Lichess interfaces with Zoom breakout rooms. And maybe I just need to play with that more to understand how that works. I assume the idea is if the kids are on Zoom, there's a camera, and so we can see if they're cheating. Is that why, if they're playing matches through Wii, we still want to set it up as a Zoom? Or
so I can touch on that too. I know the MSL is using the Zoom feature, and they did it more just to have kids like have a connection, so that it's not just hey, this player, go find that player and play without ever necessarily talking. But using the camera and using the Zoom while using Lichess might get problematic if you're using a lot of internet and if your Wi-Fi goes out. I don't plan on making the kids use Zoom. And we had discussed like the whole camera with cheating thing. Glenn Panner is coach of I want to say Frankfurt, but he also organizes a lot of USCF tournaments. And he had the chance to sit in.
It's one of the Lincoln Way high schools, isn't he?
Yes, yeah, that's the one, Lincoln Way.
Yeah.
But he had some insight into how the cheat detection works, and really having a camera open is almost unnecessary as long as there's a long enough game history. Even if a player is, because like the grossest form of cheating that you could do in this scenario is like have someone over your shoulder. And so like if you have a long game history, you'll be playing a certain way in a certain way, and the AI kind of like learns how you like your play style. And so if you have a series of 3 or 4 games where maybe you had your alumni buddy who's a grandmaster standing behind you, those 4 games will show up as blips, and Lichess will flag it. And that's why we're every game rated. Make sure you're playing more games. Make sure you're using established accounts. Because the more there is, the better that cheat detection becomes.
Right. So to challenge another team, we could just have the coaches about what the rosters look like, which players would be white for whichever team, and the white players then would make the challenge on Lichess. And you could just do it that way and not, drag Zoom into that mix at all. If you wanted to, that would be an okay way to do it.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
Zoom and Google Meet, that gets into school and district rules that each conference will have to manage. Whether you, like some schools, they demand that you're on camera. My school says you can't demand that they're on camera. And that, well, this is extracurricular. So if I videotape a football game, is it the same as videotaping, broadcasting a chess match? And so, but now they're in their homes. And so there's a whole lot of things that I think October will be the month of back and forth between admin and conference and coaches and players. And so going back to how do I set up a game, like I know for me, I'm going to be going back and reviewing step by step these documents and trying it out. Like I've already picked a school that I'm going to try and have our first match with just to get some data. And also, and the other equation is, how many students am I going to have? And so what's that going to do to our conference play? So you're exactly right. Like, so I feel like, oh wait, how do I do all this? I just got so much information, but the idea is between the video and the links we're going to share and the stuff that's already up on the page. Yeah, sit down with another coach virtually and piece together your first match probably the next couple of weeks. Give it a try and get your students start playing and get lots of games going. And then also with Slack, decide as a conference, is it any use to anyone? But for the ICCA leadership, we felt it's a great way to allow people to stay connected as we, things can change in a matter of days of what we're doing as a state and as a cluster of school districts.
Yeah, I'm glad we've got Slack. That's a big help.
All right. Any other questions before I end the recording?
Thanks for doing this.
You're welcome. All right, I'm going to end the recording and call the clinic closed, but you can stay for a few minutes here and ask questions or continue conversation, but I'm going to try in some way to end the recording. All right, thank you for coming today. Have a great day, everyone.